Ego, ego only means separate. The synonym for the word ego, it means separate. Separate from one another, that's ego. And egolessness or devoid of ego means no separateness. No separateness means merger to one. Ego is beautiful. Ego is like a masala, it's a spice. So it's people love spice, otherwise it's bland. Life becomes bland, living becomes bland, devoid of an ego. So ego is a spice. Ego is a clove, the cardamom, the cinnamon, the all the beautiful spices put together is bringing about that flavor of living. So a fermented, when the flavor ferments, it becomes conflict. So now the synonym of ego is spice or separateness, but when the separateness ferment, and that is when it becomes conflict, and that is what we are experiencing as something distasteful. It's tasteless to have a conflict. But then on the other hand, sometimes fermented drinks become also very sweet and very nice, very invigorating. So ego is like wine. A separateness or a spice fermented is conflict. So conflict is also like wine. It's okay. It has its own beauty. But how to handle it? So when there is too much of conflict, when there is too much of separateness, when we indulged too much in the attributes of separateness, then it becomes noisy. See, for example, let me bring your attention to our communication. We have Twitter, we have blog, we have cell phones, we have many gadgets, conference calls, we have radios in the car, and newspapers, and most of the time we are bombarded with information, with communication, with words. So really, if you make an assessment, in our wakeful hours, let's say we are awake for about 13 hours in a day, and in that 13 hours, if you calculate the number of words that we have consumed, the information that we have consumed, it's almost to about 15 gigabytes. 15 gigabytes of information we are consuming, content we are consuming every day. That's almost amounting to seeing almost 15 full-length cinemas, full-length movies in a day. So we go to bed every day, every night we go to bed after having seen 15 movies, 15 cinemas. Now, something is processing all this information. So the brain is getting occupied in processing all this information. How does it do that? We are oblivious. We have not thought about how the brain starts processing 15 gigabytes of information per day in our brain, and then it stores. So what should be the capacity of our memory? And this has been going on for decades and decades, and it's going on even now. And it's only increasing. Our consumption of content, our consumption of information through speaking. Right now you're consuming information when I'm speaking, and your brain is processing it. Now that requires energy. So where do we get energized from? So a very noisy brain that has accumulated too much of information, some useful, many useless, some sensible and many senseless, whatever it be, the form, the colors, the shapes, they are all information, and that's all being processed by the brain and then stored in the memory. So the brain becomes preoccupied, and when it's too preoccupied, it cannot listen anymore. And when it cannot listen, it cannot communicate, it cannot express. So the expression becomes very disturbed, or the expression becomes disharmonious because there's so much of noise within. So the objective is to learn how to handle conflict, which is very beautiful. Conflict is also very beautiful if you know how to handle it. To be able to handle it, we need to express ourselves more finely in a way that brings harmony. In a way we can accommodate the conflict. We can accommodate the sentiments of the environment, the situation, the hostilities, the circumstance, whatever it be. But for that, I need to get silent within. I need to get connected. I need to get connected with the silence within. Now, sometimes we have formal tools to get connected to the silence. Sometimes we have informal tools. Sometimes it should happen through effort. Sometimes I must exert to get connected. Sometimes I must let go to get connected. So whatever be the mean, formal, informal, whichever way, with a tool, without a tool, by letting go, the important part is to be able to connect to a silent dimension within me, so that I'm free from having to process over 15 gigabytes of information every day in my wakeful hours. So this tool of the ability to cut off and shut off from the environment, from the circumstance, from the event, from the situation, this tool is very important. It could come to you as a course, as a self-development course. It could come to you as wisdom to bring about the silence. So that is a use of wisdom. So what is the value of wisdom? Why should I seek wisdom? Because it has value. What is the value of wisdom? Because when there's a conflict and the conflict creates noise in me, I need wisdom to diffuse the noise of the conflict and bring about silence where the conflict is, to bring about harmony where the conflict is. So this is the primary objective. Now the mind has various natures. So one of the nature of the mind, it has its own mechanism, it has its own method for the mind to crystallize the past. So the impressions of the past are crystallized in the mind. This is one nature. So when my attention is into the crystallized form of the past of the mind, again I'm preoccupied. Or my preoccupation could be about the future. What's in it for me next? What's in it for me next? What I'm going to get out of this for me next? For example, if I am an officer, after the promotion, what I'm going to get is preoccupation of the mind as I'm the officer today. So I've not yet become the big officer. But as I'm doing the work today, my preoccupation is what's in it for me next. This is the crystallization of the mind into the future. So the mind crystallizes into the past and crystallizes into the future. It has its own mechanics, but we are not aware of it. But we have tools and mechanisms to diffuse this crystallization of the mind, be it in the past or in the future. And in the present, yet we are preoccupied because we are processing so much of information in our brain. So in the present or in the past or in the future, we are still not able to get silent. That's why we need to attend to wisdom, because the wisdom adds value. What is the value of wisdom? To be able to bring about the silence, bring about the needed silence in the mind, in the heart. For that I need some source to connect, some way to connect, some tool to connect, some methodology, maybe through heart connection or wisdom connection or intellectual connection or some connection. I need some connectivity. So when the connectivity is lost, ego surfaces, because ego is separateness. And ego is beautiful. It's only spice. It adds taste to living. But when it's ferment, it becomes conflict. So ego is beautiful. Ego means separateness. Fermented, it becomes conflict. Objective is to resolve conflict. And the way to resolve conflict is to bring silence where I'm over processing over 15 gigabytes of information. So to bring about silence, I need to attend perhaps some courses or some guru or some education. The Art of Living program is very suitable. The Art of Living can guide from part 1 to Divya Samaj Nirman program to the Art of Living part 2, where it's mandated that we experience a lot of meditation and we are able to cut off and shut off from the environment for a specific duration of time, and that is also enhanced because it is in a group, so it has its own goodness about it. It's very easy to do it, so the important part is to get connected. So ego is beautiful, ego is separateness, get connected.